A few years ago, I finally made the jump to PC. Since then, I've rarely bought anything new on consoles aside from a handful of exclusives that made their way to PC anyway, like Stellar Blade and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. My reasoning probably differs from most others, because what finally pushed me to bite the bullet was console storage limitations. I hate storage. I hate it on consoles, on my phone, anything. I took a trip to Japan earlier this year, filmed a ton of videos, then I had to stop halfway through my vacation because my iPhone hit the storage limit, and Apple wanted me to pay to access iCloud storage. I could have done some free trial thing, but Apple couldn't verify my account because I was running on 4-year-old outdated firmware because I refused to enable automatic updates on devices that are already functioning properly. So I scrounged around for a bit for an external SD card reader, but I was hamstrung by Apple's shitty Thunderbolt port, and the oversized reader that I wound up purchasing wanted me to download an app just to access the SD card. But the app wasn't available on the American App Store. I would need to access the Japanese App Store, and you need to make an entirely separate Japanese account just to do that. Why am I jumping through so many hoops just to save a silly 30-second memory on my phone? Why is this so difficult? Why do I need a subscription plan to save data? Why do I need to pay astronomically higher prices for a phone with double the storage capacity when storage is the cheapest thing in the world? For consoles, I started to detest them around the time devs decided to force 4K textures and uncompressed audio in 15 different languages as part of the download. You can't download a la carte. You need to download a titanic 100GB file. For what? I don't even own a 4K display. Never will. By the time the game's installed, there goes a fifth of my storage space, and that's pre-updates, DLC, and all that extra garbage. Not only is storage space a concern, now I'm fighting with my internet provider. Fiber internet is expensive where I live because my local providers have monopolized the region and have me in a chokehold, and without fiber, downloading 100 gigs takes hours. My provider also imposes a monthly bandwidth limit unless I pay even more for unlimited data. So when I download a game, I need to be damn sure it's something that I actually want to play and keep installed. It just isn't worth it downloading a 100GB game that I'll beat once, then uninstall to make room for other games. Keep in mind, I live in America. If you're unfortunate enough to live in a country with dogshit internet, I'm not sure how you can even keep up with modern gaming. So if you're gonna force me to download these huge files, at the very least, offer free cloud storage for saves. But apparently, that's too much to ask for. Sony only offers cloud storage as part of a PS Plus subscription, and the cheapest option is $80 a year. If I don't care about the random selection of monthly games that I'll never touch, which I don't, and paid access to my own internet that I already pay a monthly bill for, and I just want to back up my saves on the cloud, I'm out $80 plus tax every single year. Sony knows it's more lucrative to bundle these features to force you to pay more, because if they split them up, players that just want to pay $5 or $10 a year for cloud saves will just do that rather than pay $80. Alright, fine, I'll just back up my saves on an external drive. But you can't back up individual saves for PS5 games, only the entire collection of your PS5 save data. And if you want to restore that backup, it factory resets your console first. Really, my only viable option is to install an M.2 drive, so at least there's that. You can't even do that on Nintendo's consoles. The Switch 2's storage options are infuriating. For a console taking such a strong stance in favor of digital distribution, it's ludicrous to see that the console doesn't support M.2 drives. With these game keycards forcing digital downloads, the interior drive's measly 256 gigs will fill up so fast you won't even believe it, forcing you to rely on overpriced microSD express cards. A 1TB microSD express costs $200. A name brand M.2 drive that is an order of magnitude faster costs $70. Sure, you can't easily swap these in and out like an SD card, but who the hell is swapping around 1TB cards anyway? I haven't touched my 3DS SD card the moment I slotted it in some 13 odd years ago, and that was 32 gigs. The excuses I've seen justifying this decision are absurd. People think your average Nintendo fan is too stupid to remove a single panel and screw in an M.2 drive. Okay, maybe that's true, but still, it's a one-time task. Take 5 minutes and you're done. How is this a big deal? Tell me why I can install an SSD on the Steam Deck, but not the Switch too. For cloud storage, Nintendo also charges you for this feature, $20 a year at the moment, and I guarantee a price hike for this base option within the next year. If Nintendo's charging $55 for a Chinese-made USB-C camera I can buy on Amazon for $20, there is no way they're not gonna raise the price of their Switch Online membership. Ooh, membership, like you're part of an exclusive club, give me a break. What reason is there to charge an arm and a leg for storage unless you're an asshole? With Sony's handheld line, their crippling flaw was their proprietary storage limitations. When the PSP released, a 1GB memory stick Pro Duo cost around $130. Sony touted this as a portable multimedia machine. Play games, movies, listen to music, and store pictures all on one stick. Well, how much do you think you can cram on 1GB of storage? Even in 2005, it was a pittance. If not for SD adapters, using the PSP in the long term would have been a nightmare. And not content with the disaster that was the Pro Duo, Sony KFC doubled down on their overpriced proprietary storage once again for the Vita. 64GB for $100, and for anyone that's owned a Vita, you know that these proprietary cards were garbage. They all had abysmal failure rates. Forget stick drift, I'd take 15 broken sticks over a single memory card failure. But the Vita is even worse than that. If a game is taking up too much room and you want to delete it, if it's a PS Vita game, deleting the game also deletes the save data. Deleting PSP games or PS1 classics was fine, the save data remained, but for Vita games, no dice. The saves went with the game itself, so you had to connect the Vita to a PC and download Sony's Content Manager program to back up the entire game. When you didn't do this, and your memory card corrupted, not if, when, the saves were gone unless you paid for PS Plus to back them up to the cloud. Once my memory card corrupted, all my saves went the way of the Twin Towers. I stopped using my Vita and let it collect dust, all because of storage problems. But what about Xbox? Where do they fit into all of this? Well, the Series X offers free cloud saves, making them the only one of the big three console manufacturers to offer this basic feature for free. That's pretty nice. But as far as expandable storage goes, once again we're back to proprietary garbage. Over $200 for 2TB of storage. Why? I guess it doesn't really matter since there's nothing worth playing on the Series X aside from Ninja Gaiden 2 and Panzer Dragoon Orta, which aren't actually Series X games, but hey, it beats emulating them. But if you're playing on Xbox as your main gaming device, let's be honest, you're subscribed to Game Pass. That's literally the only reason to keep this thing plugged in, unless you're like me and you just want to play old-ass games that can't be emulated well. And if you're subscribed to Game Pass, you're downloading games constantly, so you'll take as much storage as you can get. The fact that cloud saves are free doesn't really matter since you're paying for subscription service anyway. Cheap expandable storage is way more important. Let me slot in a 2TB SSD instead of buying these ridiculous memory cards. People love to talk about how gaming is cheaper than ever when adjusted for inflation, but that's not true. Back in the cartridge era, not only was the full game on the cartridge, the saves were kept on there too. So when I pulled the game out of my system and passed it to my brother, the saves were intact. I'd rent a game from Blockbuster and find someone else's completed Pokemon Yellow save with all of their nickname Pokemon right there on my own Game Boy. Purchasing a game was a one-stop shop. $50 got you the cartridge with built-in saving capability, a full-color manual, sometimes a map, and a fancy box to keep all of this in. Plus you had to manufacture all this shit and ship these cumbersome boxes around without getting them crushed. Then stores had to pay for shelf space to sell them. That $50 covered a whole hell of a lot. Nowadays, $80 gets you just a digital download. Where's all the overhead? What's the justification for this price? Are you telling me, Nintendo, that it's out of line to expect free cloud storage when you're already massively ripping me off when compared to 25 years ago? The kids these days may not know how good it used to be, but I do, and I'm not going to forget anytime soon. If consoles want to move away from physical games and cheap saves, then I'm gonna move away from consoles. In a digital-only future, I'd much rather play on PC, where I don't need to wait for a remastered version of a game I bought 25 years ago. I'll just play it. And all those console games I bought years ago too while I'm at it. And why not? I already paid for them once. It's amusing how pirates get the best experiences for free, while the loyal paying customers get fleeced at every turn. With Steam, cloud saves are free. Online play is free. Download speeds are snappy. Try downloading a game on the Vita. It took eons. Try navigating the eShop. It's like walking underwater with a ball and chain hooked to your ankle. If I want more storage space, well, it's a PC. I'll install dual 4TB SSDs and hook up all the damn external drives I want, and it's all cheap. And I can back up my saves as many times as I want, put them on as many PCs as I want. With cloud saving, I can play on my PC, shut it off, turn on my Steam Deck, and pick up right where I left off, seamlessly. For the odd game that doesn't support cloud storage, that's fine. I'll just copy the save to a drive, stick it on my Steam Deck, and it's done. Once you experience this, it's impossible to go back to consoles. Why should I ever pay for cloud saves or expensive proprietary storage? Why should restoring backup saves factory reset my console? If the Switch 2 wants to position itself as a handheld console, why can't I eject a game, pass it to a friend, he slots it in and continues my save? I could do that on the 3DS, DS, Game Boy Advance, and Game Boy. Is this technology lost, just like our ability to land on the moon? Tell me what the advantage is to owning a console if I have to download everything. If I'm forced to install the entire game, I'm just gonna stick with PC and slap in a cheap, fat SSD and call it a day. Consoles trick you with comparatively cheap entry prices, then screw you with all the tacked on fees once you've taken the bait. It didn't used to be this way, but now that the companies tasted blood, they're gonna squeeze you for all that you've got. As the future approaches this purely digital realm, companies need to inspire confidence in their consumers that this change will be for the better. But they're not doing that. They're telling us that storage will continue to be a concern when it's the last thing on earth I want to think about. And if that's the game they want me to play, I ain't playing.